Welcome to the first tutorial of Fable Fire Ants Box 2D Levelator. In this tutorial we will look at the basic tools of Fable and also the basic panels. So the first panel that we will look at is the Tools panel. In the Tools panel we have the buttons to execute the tools to build bodies, in this case circle, rectangle and polygon bodies. To add the joints, in this case distance, pulley, revolute, even gear joints. Two tools for manipulating joints, in this case to manipulate any joint but gear joints, and a special tool to edit only gear joints. Also we have tools for manipulating bodies. We have this tool to manipulate single bodies and this tool to manipulate multiple bodies. So let's look closer at these tools by creating a small car. The first thing that we are going to create is a terrain. So for this we pick the polygon body tool and create a small box, small terrain to work with. As you can see that the polygon tool takes care of creating all the polygons if they don't meet the requirements of Box 2D. In this case, to meet those requirements, it creates 4 fixtures that add convex polygons with less than 8 sides. Let's select this body. Also we have this layer tool. I will talk about that later. We will select our terrain and set the type to dynamic, to static. As you can see here, this is the property panel of a body. There are all the properties that Box 2D supports for a body: the position, the angle, the angular velocity, and fixed rotation, and more, and so on and so forth. All those properties are fully documented in Box 2D page, official page. Except this quality. This quality is for textures when you attach a texture to a body, but I will talk about that in another tutorial. By now let's stick with only setting this to static. Now we set this body to static, and also we will set the name to ground, because you can also set the names here. There it is. Now that we have a static terrain, we will create a car. As far as all of us know, a car have a body car and wheel, so the body will be a rectangle. Even better, we will create a car shaped polygon. There is. Now, other thing that cars usually have are wheels, so let's draw a wheel here. Now with this wheel I will show you some more features of this program. Let's set this to car body, and wheel. There it is. Another feature of this program is that you can copy elements. So for example, I can duplicate this body. For duplicate at this body, I simply pick the body, click Ctrl C to copy the body, and Ctrl V to duplicate the body. As you can see, another element was added here, and this place looks a little dark because now there are 2 bodies, one on top of the other. So I can move the new body and put it around here. Let's see. Now that we have 2 bodies, we can attach them to the car with a revolute joint. The revolute joint tool is smart enough to realize that you are trying to join the car and the wheels because they overlap. This tool will find elements that overlap and joins them. All joints function the same way. Let's pick the editing tool to align the centers a little bit more. There it is. Now another interesting feature is that, for example, if I move this wheel, the program also moves the joint. So wherever I put the wheel, the program moves the joint. That's very useful. Well, now we have the car done. Let's try it. For try it, we will look another feature of the program, the playback buttons. In the playback buttons, we have the play button. The play button allows the animation to start simulating. The stop button that stops the simulation to the original state, and the pause button that pauses the simulation. So it does not stop it and restore it to the original. It only pauses it, so I can click play and the animation keeps where it stops. Now, as we can see, it's very nice our car as well. So let's look at other features of the tool. So far we have been using the single body editing tool, but we also have the multiple body editing tool. This multiple body editing tool allows us to manipulate multiple bodies. So for example, in this case, I can select the whole car and copy the whole car in some way. Now I have two cars. Now this tool not only allows us to select two cars or multiple elements, but allows us to translate multiple elements, to rotate multiple elements, and to escalate multiple elements. It's nice, eh? Now, other thing that this tool do is to be smart with the joints. So for example, if I select only half of the car and copy it, it will duplicate only the half of the part that the car that I selected. And if there's bodies that I did not select, it will not create the joints for that bodies that do not exist. So we avoid problems with bodies that have bad placed joints. The program takes care of that. Also, if I want to delete only half of the car, the joints that are not longer required, for example in this case this wheel will stay in the scenery, but the joint will be useless, so it will remove it. And it can handle tricky cases. For example, if I have two elements and those two elements have a revolute joint and the revolute joint also have a gear joint, and I delete one of the elements, it will not only remove the element and the revolute joint, but also the gear joint. I will talk more about those joints later on the tutorial, but it's a nice feature that, well, saves you a lot of time. So let's keep on our tutorial, or first tutorial. Let's return to the time where we have two cars. Well, here we have two cars. Let's make it more funny and look at the next feature. The next feature is the freezing buttons. As you can see, we have a sort of an ice cube. I like to think of it as an ice cube. This ice cube freezes the current scene. What does I mean by is the freeze? For example, if I am playing while the animation is running and suddenly I realize that I like that state and I want to edit the scene in that state, I click the freeze button and will freeze the state and allows me to edit this scene in this state. So I can add something here and it keeps going. What is nice of this tool is that it actually allows us to do some interesting stuff. So let's build a small bridge. To build a small bridge, we will only merge a couple of blocks like this. Let's keep on this. Now we have some small bridge there. Now I want the bridge to be slightly inclined, so I will run what I would like to be able to do is to put the bridge slightly pendant, in a slightly hill, and keep this last block in place, but I cannot release this block and run faster to the freezing button to leave it there. So I have this other tool that is named the auto freeze button. If I click this tool, the program will stop running as soon as I lift the click. There it is, just what I would need it. So now I have this small bridge, and I can put the card there and play around. So that's a useful tool. The next tool that we are going to review are these arrows. As you can see, these arrows, one looking backward and forward, many of us will think that are the undo and redo buttons, and they are. We can undo and redo all the things that we have done in the program. So I can undo to the beginning of the program, or redo to the last state that we were. That's a pretty useful function. Another function that we will look at now is this panel. This panel is the layer panel. Here it only serves for look at the bodies that are in the scene, but when you are working with textures, it also allows you to set the depth of each object. I mean the depth because, for example, the background should be in the deepest place, and all the other things should be on top of the background and not in the other way, because other way the only thing that you will see will be the background. But as you can see, having all the elements in only one level is tired, it's hard. So the layer have this other function that is called layer folder. So for example, the root is a layer folder, and you can add whatever amount of layer folders you want. To do that, only go to tools and to add new layer. Let's set it to contain the bridge elements. So now we have this bridge layer folder, and we will just drag off the elements that have to do with the bridge. And now all the elements are in the bridge. We can lock it, only the bridge, and make invisible a whole bridge. This is nice because it allows us to work easily with other things. So let's do this more fun and add another for car 1. And car 2, let's this not this. So let's move this to the car 1, unlock it, this one. And let's add another for the car 2. So now as you can see now, we have all this stuff in folders, and it's way more easy to look at them. Also, we can nest elements. So for example, we can nest car inside bridge, both cars. I don't know why in this case, but in other cases is useful. Now the next tool I will look at is the zoom. There's nothing, there's not a lot to look there. The next tool is the publish panel. Okay. The next tool is document settings. In the document settings, you can set the dimensions of the canvas. You can set the pixels to meters, that's a box to the parameter, the gravity. So for example, if I, instead of set the y-axis, I set the x-axis, we will see a different behavior. Okay. Settings. So as you can see now, the gravity is on the side. It's funny. We can do interesting things there. Let's return it to whatever it was. We have the textures that for when you are publishing, the filter for the pre-processing, that's a tool that I will talk about later, and the text padding, that's also for when you are publishing. By now we will stick with only those things. Let's see what else. We can import images, there will be a tutorial for that. We can, as with any program, save. And we have view modes. We have texture mode, we have no texture, so we see nothing. We have only shapes mode, and the folder is texture and shapes. Now let's save this to documents. As you can see, we save our files in with a full with a blur format. So we will save this as tutorial 1. So in that file contains all the necessary information to recreate this scenery. So for example, if I create a new project, I can load the old one. Tutorials. There it is. Everything is there. Everything is as we leave it. It's pretty nice, eh? Well, that's everything by now. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you find useful this program. See you later.